Every day in Iowa City, I see people in passing, and I think to myself,
I wonder who that person is.
Did he grow up here?
Or did he come for college and
end up staying because
He got a grant for his research?
Or maybe the love of his life.
As a townie, they
decide to raise their kids here.
In Iowa City,
today I see people every day
and wonder,
what's her story?
and wonder
or what she does for a living?
I see her around.
walking her dog,
Maybe she's the writer of
of that book I loved so much.
Maybe she's a dancer.
a chef.
Iowa City
It's interesting like that.
The guy sitting next to you on the bus
could be your new favorite singer. That lady who
Held the door open for you.
Could be a filmmaker.
A politician.
I see people.
I see people every day and wonder,
And wonder.
What's your story?
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 it's your story. Mary Kay Kusner says that she's been called to become a priest. However, it is the tradition of the Catholic Church not to ordain women. In ordaining women, Roman Catholic Women Priests International contends that they are reclaiming a lost tradition that has been subverted by the male authority in the Church. Within her church and even her own family, Mary Kay's desire to become a priest is controversial, polarizing. But for her, it is less about shattering the stained glass ceiling and more about her sincere desire to serve her church as women historically had in the 1st to 3rd century. Mary Kay will be the first Roman Catholic woman priest of Iowa, with or without the blessing of her church. And this is her story. Mary Kay, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I'm very excited to talk to you because you are about to become the first woman priest in the state of Iowa.
Yes, yes.
Now, a Roman Catholic woman priest.
Yes.
So some people would say, how is that possible? Is it legit? Is it real? And I'd love for you to explain.
So it is a very recent phenomenon. Actually, it was in 2005 when our first woman bishop was ordained, and she was ordained by a priest who is in good standing with the church. So we have maintained the line of apostolic succession. And in 2005, when Patricia Friesen was ordained a bishop, she then began ordaining women priests. So it's very much following the belief that women should be part of the apostolic line. What we say is that it is valid but licit. So we are very strong in believing that because we've maintained the apostolic line of succession, that we are validly ordained, but it is not permitted in the Catholic Church. So
I think most people know that the Catholic Church doesn't allow women to become priests. So when you say you are following the rules that the Church has laid out, but they just refuse to acknowledge it. Is that kind of it? Okay.
There's a specific canon, so it's Canon 24 that for us is a man-made law that says that only males can be ordained. So they will lift up saying that that is the law of the church. And what we are saying is the spirit of the law is that Jesus would have wanted women ordained. There's great evidence in, actually even in Scripture, that women were apostles and women were part of the early Christian church as those who hosted Eucharistic celebrations in their home. So in the 1st, 2nd, and into the 3rd century, we actually have evidence of women who were ordained as priests and bishops. So what we're saying is we're actually reclaiming a lost tradition, a tradition that was subverted by men.
Well, and like so many things, you know, the glass ceiling that keeps people out from rising to whatever the top tier is, and whether it's religion or business or whatever it is, in your case, kind of the, I guess, the stained glass ceiling.
Yes, exactly.
and there's a group of women worldwide that are working to become priests. They're
internationally.
Yeah.
So it's an international movement. You may have heard of the Danube 7. And so that was in 2002. So those were 7 women who were ordained on international waters. And that was to prevent any bishop from laying claim to it being valid or invalid. So that was really the beginning in 2002. And Patricia Friesen was ordained a priest in 2003. But it was in 2005 that a male bishop in good standing said that he felt called to begin ordaining women as priests, especially in North America, because he knew that so many women were already trained. Many had been through seminary. And he chose Patricia because she was a Dominican nun in South Africa for over 45 years. And she participated in going against apartheid. It was her group of sisters that first decided to teach African children to read and write. And at that time, it was against the law. So she was thrown in jail, really endured a lot of opposition for what she was doing, she and her community. But this bishop, this male bishop, knew that that kind of a background would be exactly what was needed in ordaining women as priests.
Someone who's willing to say, I know that these are the rules, but
out of
there has to be a
spirit of justice and equality.
Yeah.
Yes, and so we are reclaiming the gospel as a message of inclusion, and very much that of equality as well.
This group of, now it's the Roman Catholic women priests. Okay, now this group of women, it's not only just ordination of women that you're breaking with the church on, but you just said inclusion. You're also being inclusive in other ways.
We are, and so kind of the three areas that we disagree with our male counterparts is one, inclusion of women, because we believe that Jesus very much appreciated the value of women, and historically women in Jesus' time would have never been chosen because women's status at that point was invalid, really. But we know that he welcomed women at the table. We know that he first appeared to Mary Magdalene as a woman. And so claiming the equality of women is one of our...
So maybe if Jesus had been born at a different time according to the belief of the Catholic, of Christianity, than if Jesus had been born now when women are the heads of companies and saying Mass and other in other churches.
So any good biblical perspective includes the historical context. So you know that things didn't remain static. They change because of historical changes. So now is the time. Now we are in an age where women are claiming their equality. But at the same time, we also look to the issue of diversity. The Catholic Church, unfortunately, has declared that those who are gay or lesbian are objectively disordered. And that to me was a huge, huge affront to all those who have difference in sexual orientation. And I have many friends who are gay or lesbian, and to them, having been raised Catholic, it was as if suddenly they'd been labeled. And to say someone is objectively disordered, to me, is as bad as in Jesus' time. I always call them the modern day lepers, because in Jesus' time, lepers were the outcasts. They were labeled and shunned. And I think this is our modern day labeling and shunning of people.
The casting out of the...
Yes, those who are different. So that is another area where we very much disagree. We believe the gospel is a gospel of inclusion and that all are welcome at the table. You'll hear that over and over with women priests. All are welcome at the table. We believe that anyone invited to a feast would not then be left unable to participate in what the host is offering. So that's the gospel of inclusion. The other area that we disagree on is celibacy. Celibacy was never part of the early church. I mean, it would have been unusual for a Jewish man not to have been married. So it was really in the 12th century that celibacy became an issue because of the problem of inheritance. So priests who were ordained owned land and they had wives and families. And the church was realizing this was a problem. How do we divvy up inheritance? So they imposed the law of celibacy so that no ordained priest could own land, and left wives and children. I mean, if a man wanted to remain a priest, he had to leave his wife and children without